So with everything going on in the world right now, as well as stressors in our daily life, it becomes harder and harder to be able to hold a sense of optimism and hope. And as a result, there's sort of a lack of meaning and purpose in our daily lives. And unsurprisingly, this lack of hope, this hopelessness probably reduces our general sense of well-being, increases the chances of things like depression and anxiety. As a psychologist, this lack of meaning has been pretty pervasive among the patients I've been working with recently. So today I'm going to talk about some of the strategies that I use with patients to start to instill a little bit more purpose in a person's daily life. So one powerful way to cultivate meaning is through identification and action towards our values. And values are essentially the things that are truly important to us. And they can be things like family or relationships or friendships or career success or academic achievement. And they can also be qualities like creativity or adventure or being loyal or generous. As you can see, these values can be quite unique towards us because they're things that give us meaning. And after you've identified some of the unique values that you hold, one thing that can be quite helpful is to identify whether your current pattern of behaviors in your daily life actually correlate with how important these things are to your life. So you can even make a little bit of a pie chart to identify, okay, right now I'm, 50% of my time is spent at work and 25% is with family, and only, a small percentage is, doing the things I really find enjoyable, like playing music or, engaging in arts and craft. So as a result, you can kind of see that there's a bit of an imbalance compared to what your true values are, where you might think, oh, okay, like career is important to me, family is important to me, but career shouldn't be like 70 or 80% of my time, or at least the energy I'm using to further my career, when it's not truly the most important thing. So you want to be able to identify where you're currently at in your current state or pie chart, and then kind of identify what would you eventually like it to be. Okay, so I'd like my hobbies to be a little bit more, or I'd like to be a bit more generous with my time with friends and family. So whatever that looks like, identify the discrepancies and then be able to make small shifts towards those particular set of values and the weight it has on your life. So once you've identified these values, one thing that you can do then is to just identify the behaviors most consistent with those values. So if relationships are really important to you, but you haven't really called mom in a while and you haven't really hung out with any of your friends recently, one thing you could do would be to call your mom in the evenings, or set up a coffee date with a friend, whatever that might be for you, to slowly have your actions match the values. Another way to increase a sense of meaning in our lives is being more present with our experiences. So with the busyness of everyday life, we're often on autopilot, or we're multitasking a bunch of different things at the same time. So it's really hard for us to really stay present and centered with one specific activity. So we might be cleaning while we're listening to music, while we're also thinking about work the next day. So we're worrying and ruminating. It's hard to really be centered in the present moment. So I encourage you, even if it's just a few minutes a day, to stay really, in some ways, mindful with your current experience. If you're drinking a cup of tea, really take some time to enjoy, the smell of it, the taste of it. Take that time to be present in the moment and recognize that, nothing's really going to happen in the next few minutes that you really need to urgently deal with right now. And if there is, obviously do the thing, but be able to stay present for just a few minutes, or, if the weather is permitting, to go outside, take a walk, and just enjoy the nature and enjoy the music of the birds, whatever that it would be for you, whether it's listening to music, whether it's drinking a cup of coffee, having, a really nice chat with a friend. Do your best to really engage with that experience as much as possible. And one of the unique things about being human beings is that we can almost change the scope of our psychological flexibility. Like when we think about things in a global level, we might feel really, really stressed. We might feel a lack of meaning and hope because of everything going on in the world. And there are certain times where we can change that scope to focus on the thing in front of you, the person in front of you. Because even if we feel like, at an existential level, nothing really matters, maybe that interaction with the person you're engaging with, that thing matters to them, or, the generosity you showed or the kindness you showed to a person, or that moment in time where you're simply enjoying a nice cup of coffee while looking at the birds. Like that can be meaningful if we're willing to, reduce that sort of fixed kind of flexibility and kind of move into more of a flexible framework to be able to say, hey, like this moment does matter. And one final way to instill a bit more meaning into your daily life that I'll talk about for now is the idea of connecting our past, present, and future. Now, that sounds like a little bit of a weird idea, but let me talk about it a little bit more. So, I'm going to talk about it in the context of one of my patients who was about 30 years old. He was working in investment finance, and he was coming to me because he was feeling really anxious and a little bit depressed about his present and as well as his future because he thought, I really don't want to be working in investment finance anymore. But it feels like I'm betraying my past self because I put so much work and effort into my day to day, into studies, into my work and studying for exams. And now I feel like if I don't continue on in this path, I feel like I've wasted all of that effort. As you can see with this patient, his past and his present were a little bit in conflict in the sense that what he did in the past didn't feel very compatible with what he wanted in the present moment, his current values. Maybe now he wanted to spend more time with friends and his relationship and with family, whereas the past version himself was only really focused on sort of the financial success, and it felt like his values have shifted, and he couldn't really make sort of reconciliation between the past and the present moment. And one of the things that was quite helpful for him to reconcile his past with his present and future was to say, well, if he hadn't actually taken the time to climb the mountain, so to speak, would he have had the perspective that he does now that the things that truly matter are friends and family and, things that he truly finds passion in? And that was quite helpful for him because he thought, okay, well, actually, that is true. Because if I hadn't taken that time to really, really do well in my career and set myself up a bit more financially, then I don't think I would have had that same perspective. I might have still been sort of climbing that mountain. So, in that way, he was able to say, actually, it makes good sense for me to have done all those things and thank his past self for the hard work because it then allowed him to truly understand what are the things that are important to him. So, in the same vein, what I encourage you to do is think a little bit about your past self. Are there things that you did or didn't do that you regretted or you blamed yourself for? And how does that in some ways connect with your present self and the strengths that you do have? And obviously you don't want to invalidate yourself. Like some things, hard times are just hard times and there's nothing really meaningful to gain out of it. So in that case, don't feel a pressure to make that make sense. And like if there is some sort of meaning as to, some hard things that happened that has strengthened your character or changed the way that you think about what your career should be, those things could help you connect the past to your present moment. And well, of course, with mindfulness and value-based actions, you're able to, enjoy the present moment as much as possible and ideally have some goals both in the short term and the long term that you can look forward to. Like for example, spending time with friends the next week or going on that trip to, fulfill your value of adventure or creativity, as well as of course longer term goals in terms of career or educationally or just things that you want to accomplish in your lifetime to make your past, present, and future all kind of connected in a way into a coherent narrative that feels hopeful and meaningful to you. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful to identify at least a few values or things that are important to you and start taking at least a couple steps in your day-to-day to really fulfill that value in terms of the way that you're living your life. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.